For this video, I'm going to be exploring tooth number 27, surfaces toward me and away from me. I'm going to first check to see my correct end, and with this one I can see that the tip is going towards the surface that I need to. That one is incorrect. Starting here, with my elbow up and out, fulcruming 2 to 2, 3 teeth away, going down, quickly going in there, and once I am in the interproximal, just rocking my wrist up and down so that I can get the entire surface in between the interproximal. I'm going to come out and I'm going to demonstrate that one more time. Down, up, getting in there, keeping the tip adapted. These roots are not as broad as the posterior teeth, and I want to make sure my tip stays adapted to the tooth at all times. And coming out. Part of this video, I'm going to be exploring tooth number 27, surfaces away from me, and for that I do need to be behind the patient, either in between 11 to 1 o'clock. And to pick the correct end, I need to place my working tip, and I can see that that is not correct, and that is going to be the correct side. So I'm going to start at the middle. I'm going to be 2 to 3 teeth away, keeping my tip adapted, just rocking my wrist and keeping it adapted as much as possible. Once I am in there, I want to explore the interproximal, getting really up and high enough that I can get as much surface of the tooth as possible, and bringing it slowly out. Starting again, keeping my tip adapted, starting about halfway at the tooth, down, and bringing it towards in there, rolling, making sure my explorer can get in and as much as on the surface of the interproximal as much as possible, and coming out. On the lingual surface, using the correct working end, I'm going to have my mirror here as a way to depress the tongue while I'm getting a visual. I'm still working on the surface away from me, so I am going to be behind the patient's head, starting at the midline of the tooth. On tooth number 27, I'm going to enter in here and get in the interproximal and make sure that my tip is able to really get in the interproximal and keeping it adapted to tooth number 27 as much as possible, feeling for any abnormalities. Getting it back out there. I'd like a smoother exit if possible. Midline, getting it down in the subgingival. Once I feel that I'm in there, rolling and pivoting and keeping my tip adapted as much as possible to not injure the gum, and keeping my wrist activation so that I can get the tip up on the interproximal as much as possible, and rolling that out. For the surface that is toward me on the lingual side, I'm going to be sitting like towards the front of my patient, and with the correct working end, starting at the midline of the tooth, I'm going to go subgingivally, and this one I want to roll. I want to roll my elbow, pivot my elbow out, and that will help me get on the interproximal of the tooth. And here I can just use my wrist motions, wrist activation, to get into the interproximal of tooth number 27. There it goes. One more time. Getting down in there. And then using that, keeping my tip adapted,